Everyone fears the scorpion's sting, but few are brave enough to seek their healing. They don't just see your darkness.
In the vast world of astrology, Scorpio is often painted with the heavy brushes of control, vengeance, and deadly venom. But to stop there is to miss one of the universe's greatest miracles, the power to heal from the very depths of brokenness. Scorpio is not the bringer of pain. They are the alchemists of the soul, the ones who know how to turn mud into lotuses and venom into a saving medicine. They do not heal through superficial comfort or sweet whispers. They heal by descending with you into the basement of the shadow to face the truths that the rest of the world is running from. The first lesson Scorpio teaches us is that true light is not found in the brightest places, but in the courage to carry a torch into the darkest corners of our own existence. The intimacy of truth. The healing power of a high-frequency Scorpio is not found in a gentle embrace or a whispered comfort. It is found in the steady, unflinching hand of a surgeon. In a world that is obsessed with the surface, with curated aesthetics, and the polite avoidance of anything heavy, Scorpio stands as the ultimate outlier. They do not believe in the modern culture of toxic positivity. They have no interest in empty motivational phrases or the good vibes only philosophy that often serves as a bandage over a festering wound. To a Scorpio, offering a platitude to someone in deep pain is not an act of kindness, it is an act of spiritual negligence. They understand a fundamental law of the human psyche. A wound will never heal if it is still infected by lies. This is why we call them the soul surgeons. Their intuition is not just a gut feeling, it is a razor-sharp scalpel, honed through lifetimes of observing the unspoken and the unseen. When you enter the presence of a Scorpio who has mastered their power, the first thing you feel is a stripping away of your defenses. You cannot hide behind a social mask or a rehearsed story when you are in their line of sight. They look past the "I'm fine" and the "it's okay" to see the precise coordinates of your trauma. This can feel terrifying, even invasive, to those who are not ready to change. But for the soul that is tired of running, this surgical precision is the greatest gift imaginable. The intimacy that Scorpio offers is the intimacy of truth. Most people believe intimacy is about shared pleasure or physical closeness, but Scorpio knows that true intimacy is the ability to be seen in your rawest, most unlovable state and not have the other person look away. They invite you into a space where the ugly truths, your deepest fears, your secret shames, and the traumas you have tried to bury in the basement of your subconscious are finally brought into the light. They do not flinch at your darkness because they have spent so much time navigating their own. By refusing to be shocked by your shadow, they give you the permission you never gave yourself, the permission to stop lying. There is a profound psychological lesson embedded in this Scorpio frequency. The truth is the only road to freedom. We spend massive amounts of our internal energy trying to keep our shadow hidden, trying to maintain a version of ourselves that is acceptable to the world. This effort is exhausting. It is the primary source of our anxiety and our feeling of being stuck. Scorpio intervenes in this cycle by demanding an honest accounting. They teach us that the shadow is not something to be defeated or deleted, but something to be acknowledged and integrated. Imagine a patient on an operating table. The surgeon must cut through the skin to reach the source of the infection. It is painful, yes. It is invasive, certainly. But it is the only way to save the life. This is the Scorpio methodology. They force you to look directly at the fear you've spent a decade avoiding. They ask the one question you've been afraid to answer. Through this intense, concentrated focus, they perform an alchemical transformation. They help you realize that the thing you were most afraid of, the secret you thought would destroy you, loses its power the moment it is named. Transmuting pain into power. The most awe-inspiring distinction of the Scorpio spirit is their total lack of fear regarding endings. While the rest of the world clings desperately to the familiar, terrified of the death of a relationship, a career, or an identity, Scorpio moves toward the fire. They possess an ancient, instinctual knowledge that every ending is a sacred prerequisite for a more glorious beginning. In the cosmic cycle of life, Scorpio understands that nothing truly new can be born until the old has been completely reduced to ash. This is the heart of the Phoenix Alchemy, the miraculous ability not just to survive destruction, but to be reinvented by it. The symbol of the phoenix is not merely a myth for Scorpio. It is their lived reality. We often see people who are broken by life, people who survive a devastating collapse but remain haunted or diminished by the experience. Scorpio is different. They do not just survive pain, they eat it. They use agony as a high-octane fuel to upgrade their soul to an entirely new dimension of existence. For a Scorpio, a rock bottom is not a destination of despair. It is the only foundation solid enough upon which to build a fortress. When they find themselves in the middle of a life-shattering crisis, their first instinct is not, "Why is this happening to me?" but "What is the new version of me that is currently being forged?" This process is what we call transmutation. In traditional alchemy, the goal was to turn lead into gold. In the Scorpio soul, the goal is to turn trauma into power. They take the raw, jagged shards of betrayal, loss, and grief, and melt them down in the furnace of their own intense will. This isn't just healing in the sense of returning to a previous state. It is an evolution. When a Scorpio rises from the ashes, they are never the same person they were before the fire. They return with sharper intuition, deeper empathy, and an unshakable inner authority that can only be earned by walking through hell and back. This alchemy sends a revolutionary message to a world that is terrified of suffering. Adversity is not a full stop. It is not the end of the book. It is the climax of the chapter. Scorpio teaches us that life's greatest challenges are actually cosmic invitations to let go of our smaller selves. The fire of crisis is a furnace designed to burn away everything that is fragile, everything that is extra, and everything that no longer serves your highest purpose. What remains after the fire has done its work is the unshakable diamond, the part of your spirit that cannot be broken, cannot be burned, and cannot be intimidated. To witness a Scorpio undergoing the Phoenix Alchemy is to witness the triumph of the human spirit over the gravity of despair. They remind us that the most beautiful versions of ourselves are often the ones we haven't met yet, the versions that are currently waiting for us on the other side of our greatest fears. They teach us that we don't have to be afraid of falling apart, because falling apart is simply the soul's way of rearranging itself into a more powerful configuration. Ultimately, Scorpio's Phoenix Alchemy is a call to arms for anyone standing in the middle of their own ruins. It is a reminder that you are not a victim of your circumstances. You are the architect of your own rebirth. By embracing the fire rather than running from it, you take back your power. You stop being afraid of the end, because you finally realize that for a soul as deep as yours, every end is just a magnificent doorway to a version of you that the world has never seen before. Holding space for the unspoken. While many believe that empathy is about feeling what others feel, Scorpio's empathy goes much deeper. It is a piercing, telepathic awareness of the unspoken. They possess a psychological radar that detects the subtle undercurrents of another person's mind, sensing the vibration of a lie, the weight of a secret, or the silent scream of a suppressed heartbreak. In a society that is often too loud and too distracted to notice the suffering of the person sitting right next to us, Scorpio is the one who stops and sees you. They don't just hear your words. They hear the silence behind them. This unique brand of empathy allows their presence to function as a heavy anchor in a great storm. When someone is drowning in a sea of emotional chaos, lost in the waves of grief, anxiety, or confusion, Scorpio provides a grounding force that is rare to find. They don't try to fix the storm or tell you to just calm down. Instead, they drop their anchor into the depths and sit with you in the middle of the gale. They offer a stability that is not based on false optimism, but on the courage to remain unmoved by the intensity of human emotion. By staying anchored themselves, they help those who are staggering to finally find their footing again. Perhaps the most healing aspect of the Scorpio anchor is their radical lack of judgment. Most people are afraid of the darkness in others because they haven't yet confronted the darkness within themselves. They recoil from your anger, your jealousy, or your despair because it reminds them of their own hidden parts. But a high-frequency Scorpio has already befriended their own shadows. They have walked through the darkest corridors of their own soul and have made peace with the monsters they found there. Because of this, your ugly truths do not shock them. They understand that every human being is fighting a silent internal war, and they offer a sanctuary where you can finally lay down your weapons. There is a profound spiritual lesson embedded in this empathic exchange, the lesson of total self-acceptance. Scorpio teaches us that we cannot be truly compassionate toward others until we have been compassionate toward our own hidden corners. If we reject our own shadow, we will inevitably judge the shadow of our neighbor. But by accepting every fragment of ourselves, the broken, the bitter, and the beautiful, we unlock a new level of humanity. Scorpio shows us that only when we stop fearing our own darkness can we become deep enough to love the darkness in others. In the presence of this empathic anchor, a strange kind of alchemy happens. People often find themselves confessing things to a Scorpio that they have never told another living soul. This happens because the Scorpio frequency creates a sacred void, a vacuum of non-judgment where the truth can finally breathe. They remind us that to be seen in our entirety is the ultimate human longing, and to be accepted despite our flaws is the ultimate human healing. Ultimately, Scorpio's role as the anchor is to teach us that we are never as alone as we think we are. They stand as a bridge between the surface world and the deep, reminding us that there is a profound dignity in our suffering. They don't ask you to be perfect, they ask you to be real. And in that raw, unfiltered reality, they help you realize that your darkness doesn't make you bad, it makes you human. By holding space for the unspoken, they give the soul the one thing it needs most to heal, the permission to exist exactly as it is, protecting the healing process. In our modern era, we are conditioned to believe that everything must be shared, documented, and performed for an audience. We live in a culture of overexposure, where privacy is often mistaken for secrecy and silence is mistaken for absence. But Scorpio knows a truth that the world has forgotten. True healing is a sacred process that requires absolute privacy. Like a seed germinating in the dark soil, or a butterfly transforming within the opaque walls of a chrysalis, the human soul requires a sacred void to mend. Scorpio acts as the steadfast gatekeeper of this journey, standing at the threshold to ensure that nothing intrusive violates the sanctity of your recovery. When someone they love is broken, Scorpio does not call for a crowd. They do not look for sympathy from the outside world. nor do they allow the shallow curiosity of others to penetrate the healing space. They create a secure, invisible barrier, a psychic fortress that shields you from negative influences, unsolicited advice, and the toxic noise of society. During your most vulnerable stages, Scorpio becomes your protector. They handle the mundane details, they deflect the prying questions, and they stand guard so that you don't have to. It is crucial to understand that this protection is not an act of control, though it is often mislabeled as such. Instead, it is a profound and deep respect for the rhythm of recovery. Scorpio knows that the soul cannot be rushed, you cannot optimize grief, and you cannot hack a broken heart. By guarding the sacred void, they allow you enough quiet space to sit in your own silence, to face your own demons, and to slowly mend your spirit at your own pace. They provide the one thing that is rarest in the 21st century, the freedom to be offline while you reconstruct your inner world. Through this silent guardianship, Scorpio teaches us one of the most beautiful lessons about devotion. True love does not always need to be loud. In a world of grand public declarations and performative gestures, Scorpio's love is found in the willingness to stand in the dark. It is the love of the person who stays awake in the hallway while you sleep, the one who carries your secrets like a vault, and the one who shields your flickering flame from the wind until it is strong enough to shine on its own again. They don't need the credit. They only care about the result, your survival, and your eventual return to power. There is a sacred geometry to this kind of relationship. While other signs might want to be the sun in your life, shining brightly and demanding attention, Scorpio is content to be the black hole, the invisible force that holds the galaxy together, providing the gravity and the depth that makes everything else possible. They remind us that there is immense power in the sacred void. It is not an empty space. It is a space of pure potential, a place where the old you is dismantled so that the new you can be built. Ultimately, the guardian of the sacred void reminds us that our vulnerabilities are not weaknesses to be exposed, but treasures to be protected. Scorpio shows us that the most profound shifts in human consciousness don't happen on a stage under a spotlight. They happen in the stillness, in the privacy of a trusted bond, and in the shadow of a protector who isn't afraid of the dark. They teach us that the highest form of support is not a speech, but a shield, a silent promise that as long as they are standing at the gate, you are safe to fall apart, because they will be there to help you put the pieces back together. The master of the deep. Ultimately, Scorpio stands as the master of depth, reminding humanity that the shadow is not an enemy, but an essential part of wholeness. The healer in the dark is not just a title, but a noble mission to remind us that even in our most desperate moments, the power of rebirth is always latent within us. Do not fear the stings of life, because under the transformative hands of an awakened Scorpio soul, every wound can become a scar of immense pride. Learn to love the broken parts of your story, for that is exactly where the light will enter to begin a journey more radiant than ever before.